Let's proceed. Let's proceed. Get this show on the road. And hopefully complete everything that we need to. Okay. Right, so where were we? We were working on number 7. Number 7 says the total of 512 on the original invoice was posted to the creditor's individual account in the creditor's ledger for 521. Okay, so can you see in the creditor's individual account? Okay, so that tells you that it was dealt with fine in the creditor's control. It's just in the creditor's list that is not okay. So it's supposed to be 512, but it was posted as 521. So what is the difference between those two amounts? It's 9 Rand. Okay. All right. So basically, we know whenever we buy something on credit, we're going to credit the creditor's control. Okay. And likewise, we'll then also credit the creditor's list. Okay. So in this case, we're saying 521 was credited. Okay. But we need to reduce that 521. Let me do it in green. We need to reduce that because it is 512 that's supposed to be. And we know that's 9 Rand up. So we just say, let's debit 9 Rand. Okay. Again, this is happening in the creditors list. So we come here, number 7, and we just put only standard rated goods were sold, was erroneously accidentally entered into the creditor's journal instead of the debtor's journal and posted as such. Okay. It was treated as an original invoice. Okay. So again, we know that when we say it was treated like an original invoice, it means we were the ones buying. It was treated as if we were the ones buying. So what are they telling us? They're telling us, let me use red this time, they're telling us that we recorded it as 420 on the credit side because we treated it like we bought. Okay. 420 there. Then again, they said it was posted as such. So in other words, the creditors list was also credited by 420. So to reverse that, all we need to do before we get on to how it should have been recorded is to then debit 420 on the creditors control and 420 on the creditors list. Okay, so we've reversed that, we canceled it out. So remember, this was actually a duplicate invoice. So we were the ones actually selling. So how it was supposed to be recorded was, I'm going to use blue here, we're supposed to put 420 on the debtors debit side, okay, because our debtors are increasing, okay, and we were supposed to also debit the individual debtor, okay. So here we come, we also put 420 on the debit and 420 on the debit for the debtors list. Okay, cool. Then number 9, we're almost done. Number 9, what is happening over there? An original credit note totaling 1,000 was correctly entered into the creditor's allowance journal. Okay, but when posting the entry to the creditor's individual account, the bookkeeper entered in an incorrect amount of 100. Okay, when posting the entry to the creditor's individual account, the bookkeeper entered in the incorrect amount of 100. Okay, so this is an amount error. Okay, so what they're telling us that the error happened when we were posting to the person's individual creditor's account. Okay, so basically what they're saying is that we did record this thing correctly in the creditor's control. We put a 1000 on the debit side in the creditor's control. Remember, this is an original credit note. But when we came down to the credit list, we only put 100 Rand on this individual's account, which is a problem because that means we are short. So we're short by how much? By 900. We're undercast, if we want to use the right terms, by 900 Rand. Okay, sharp. So all we need to do here is go to the credit list and debit 900 Rand to make up for that shortfall. Are there any questions or thoughts here? Everybody's still happy? Okay, all right. Then we go on to number 10. Number 10, a check counterfoil for a check issued to a creditor shows the correct amount of 6,000. Okay, so we issued a check for 6,000 and the check counterfoil shows the correct amount. We paid a creditor 6,000. The amount was correctly entered into the cash book payments, but only 600 was entered into the creditor's individual account. Okay, so again, what they're telling us here is we paid a creditor for the correct amount of 6,000. Okay, that's fine. All right, but when posting to the individual's account, so in other words, what they're telling us is again, here, the 6,000 in the creditor's control was correctly debited. Okay, but when we now came to the creditors list, we only put 600 in their credit side on the individual creditor. So there's a shortfall again. But how much this time? So you can calculate it in your minds. That's 5,400. Okay, so we need to take this 5,600 and do what? And we need to debit the creditor's control. I said 5,600. I should have said 5,400. My bad. So at this point, your job now is to say, okay, I've made the necessary amendments. It's much like the, what do they call it? The trial balance reconciliation statement. Okay. We then now need to total to say, okay, how much debits do I have for my creditors list? How much credits do I have for my creditors list? For my creditors control, how much credits do I have? For my creditors control, how much debits do I have? And that's what I've highlighted in blue and in yellow for you guys. Okay, your next job is to say, what was my previous balance on the debtors control, for example? Okay, it was 11,000. All right, so I know the debit side increases my debtors control, so we're going to add that plus. Can you see plus? Okay, 770. Then less minus the credit side, which we know decreases the creditor's control, and that lands us at 5,049 Rand. Okay. Okay, awesome stuff. That's fine. We come to the next and we do the exact same thing. And we see that the total we then get over there before any adjustments was 4,950. Okay, we know the debit side increases the debtors list. Okay, so we add that 420 and then we minus 328. Okay, and then we arrive at the very same 5,042. So we know now our debtors is sorted. We've corrected any errors that we had in our debtors. Okay, because our debtors list and our debtors control is the balances on those, or the totals on those, are matching. Okay, awesome stuff. Now you go to your creditors control account and you do the very same thing. You say, what was our previous balance? It was 16,120. Okay, we know that our credit side increases our balance, okay, but there was nothing there, so we put a 0. We know that our debit side decreases our creditors control, 6,048. Okay, there we go. So minus that from the 16,120 that we had, and we arrive at the 10,072. Okay, that's the amount, the new balance that we have after amendments. We go to our creditors list and we see, okay, our balance was 18,429. Okay, we have nothing on the credit side, but we have 8,357 on the debit side. Okay, so less than, and then we arrive at a balance of 10,072. Okay, and we see again it matches with what we have from the creditors control. All right, so in that regard we are happy. We are happy. All right, so can you see now everything is now matching? So can you see the different ways that they can ask you to do this creditors and debtors reconciliation? Okay, you need to understand how to do this as well. Okay, all right. Any questions before we move on to 2.5? Okay, not a tough exercise, just requires you to understand what's going on. After understanding what's going on, understanding what exactly happened as a result of what actually took place, like what was it, a debit or was it a credit, in which journal or which account was affected by this, and then saying, okay, how do we rectify it? How do we rectify it? Cool. Let's go on to 2.5 and see what's happening over there. Over there. Okay. So I think this is even an easier exercise because it's a little more straightforward. Okay. We'll see how far we get. If we can even just read through the transaction, then that's fine. And understand where they're supposed to go, then that's fine. Because then we can obviously I'll just show you the answers if we don't have time to actually delve into doing it step by step together. Okay, but under the required, it says there, use the given information and draw up the debtors control and creditors control accounts, okay, in the general ledger of JPEG stores. All posting may be dated 31 March 2009. Okay, so what we are doing here is simple. We are just simply doing the debtors control and the creditors control. Okay, debtors control and the creditors control. Okay, sharp, no problem. Then it goes on to tell us the following information was taken from the books of JPEG stores, a registered VAT vendor that uses the perpetual inventory system. Okay, totals are as at 1 March 2009, debtors list to 24,030 rand. Creditors list 19,530. Okay, awesome stuff. No problema. Right. So again, here they're just trying to trick you guys out a little bit. By giving you the totals on the debtors list and the totals on the creditors list. Right? Instead of telling you your opening balance to your debtors control and your creditors control is this, they're giving you the total on the debtors list and creditors list. Can you see? But it is the very same thing. Because remember, what we've been teaching you is that the total that you get on your debtors list, right, should be the total that you get on your debtors control account. Should be the total balance, should I say, or balance. Okay. So here they're just trying to test, do you actually know? Do you actually know? Do you actually know? Okay. That's all they've done there. Then they say transactions for March 2009, all amounts include VAT where applicable. Okay. Awesome stuff. And we know whenever we're dealing with debtors, whenever we're dealing with creditors, we're dealing with the VAT inclusive amount. Okay. Right. So first things first there says total cash sales of merchandise. Now, we know that when we're dealing with debtors, when we're dealing with creditors, we're talking about we are either owing, that's why we call them creditors, okay, or we're being owed by virtue of creditors. I mean debtors, sorry. So that first line is not applicable. We don't need that information. Next one, total credit sales of merchandise. Okay, so this would be your debtors column in the debtors control, and that would be your total sale. What's this? That would then go to your debtors control, okay, sales and VAT. Okay, so let's see here. So need to switch questions. You're doing 2.5. Okay, so here, maybe let me just try and insert it right away. So remember, this is the total credit sales of merchandise, okay? So that's going to increase. So we're going to debit that amount. And here you just write sales and VAT. Okay. Okay, and they said 141, sorry. Thousand. How much? 234.81. Okay. So we've recorded that first one. Next one, it says total of the debtors column in the cash receipts. Okay, total on the debtors column in the cash receipts. This is money that we've received from our debtors, in other words. So we know that that's going to reduce. Let's do this. Remember, this is negative, and this is, oh, actually, sorry, this is positive. This is negative. So if we've received money from our debtors, again, that means, I'm just going to put this, okay, this is stuff you should know, but anyway, okay. So here, bank. That's all you need to write. And then here you come, you say, how much was this? 41,591. How many cents? And 12 cents. Move to the next one. Total of the creditors column in the cash book payments. Okay, creditors column. Okay, what did we do with our creditors? We're in the cash payments journal. That means that's money that we have paid to our creditors. Okay, so I want to align this with the CBP there. So this is going to be bank. Okay, and okay, so this font is clearly okay, and here remember, let's draw it as well. So I'm gonna just alright. I shouldn't be doing this, to be quite honest with you, but it's okay. I'm more interested in people understanding. Okay, at least following today's lecture, understanding where we are. Okay, so that's fine. Okay, what was the amount there? Total creditors column 34. 962.06 cents. Why doesn't this one too be small like I instructed? Okay, I'm gonna zoom in just now, so don't worry. Oh goodness me. Okay, so this is where we were. Okay, so let's go to the next one. Settlement discount granted to debtors in the general journal. Settlement discount granted, okay? So if it's granted, that's obviously affecting our debtors. Okay, so you're gonna come here and you're gonna put that to the, it's gonna be sales and VAT. And the amount there is for 9,018.88. Okay. Then we go to the next one. Settlement discount received from trade creditors in the general journal. Okay. Settlement discount received. So this time it's going to reduce our creditors. Okay, so it's going to come this side. Okay, and there we can just say trading inventory plus that. Okay, there we go. All right, awesome stuff. All right, so where are we? Then we have check dishonored as recorded in the cash book payments. Okay, dishonored check. We know that that means that somebody now owes us more. Okay, as a result, because what we're saying is we thought they had paid, they hadn't paid. So here all that we write is bank Just give me a second. Okay, and how much was that? Let's see. 500. Right, so where are we now? Discount cancelled. Okay, previously granted to debtor, so we know this is now going to also come this side. And here again, you're just writing sales plus VAT. Okay. Right, that was 1,307.99. Okay. Just checking if you guys have any questions. Yeah, you guys should say and VAT. You can do the and sign, or you can write it out in words. But yeah, don't do the plus. It doesn't look as good. I'm just doing it for space reasons. Okay, it's quicker on my side. But yeah, you guys, it's the same thing. You mustn't abbreviate. I just do it sometimes to save time. Like I'll write instead of full on writing inventory, I'll write INV. Okay, you guys shouldn't do that. Okay. All right. But if you do this, nah, I won't take away marks from you, okay? Because I get what's going on. But typically, nah, stay away from this. Rather do and VAT, okay? Right. Cool. Total of creditors column in the creditors journal. Okay, total of creditors column in the creditors journal. So again, you need to ask yourself, what is the creditors journal about? It's for whenever we buy goods on credit. Okay, cool, no problem. So now we're looking at the total on the creditors column. So that means the total of goods that we bought on credit. Okay, so how do we address that then? Okay, we come to the creditors and we know, okay, this is definitely okay, so I've actually filled it out already. You can sundry purchases, okay? And then here, it's on the credit side because it's gonna, when we buy on credit, it obviously increases what we owe. Okay, so how much is that? That's the 762.48. Yes, bring this up a bit. Okay, there we go. Right, done. We can now move on to the next. Okay, cash purchases, merchandise, cash purchases, packaging material. Those do not apply to what we're doing here because we know that we're operating on credit stuff. So that there is irrelevant for us. We need not pay any mind to it whatsoever. Okay, cool. So we go to the next one. Total of creditors column in the creditors control, creditors allowance journal, sorry. Creditors column. Right, what's happening in the creditors allowance journal? Okay, by now you guys must be tired of these questions. You guys must be tired of these questions because y'all know it's returns and rebates. But I'm trying to show you, if you do not have your accounting 1A, all right, on point, you're going to have some challenges in 1B. because we just assume that you know this stuff. Okay. So please, thank you very much, Etienne. You're 100% right. Returns and rebates. Okay, so here, what is it again? Total creditors column. So again, this is going to reduce, just zoom out just a little bit. Okay, yeah. So we know this is going to reduce our account, and here you're going to say sundry purchases returns. Ish. Okay, there we go. Okay, so the amount there is simply 1,680. 33 cents. Cool. Right. Then we go on to the next. It says total of sales returns column in the debtors allowance journal. Okay. All goods sold were standard rated. Okay. So we know we're going to credit this, but that happens in the debtors allowance journal. Okay. Just so you are aware, that's for the debtors allowance. So here again, you're just going to write sales and that. Okay. Let's try and just put things in line. Okay, let me not waste time doing this. Okay, right. So the amount there, 2,450. Okay, no sense. Move on to the next one. And there it says debtors balance written off as irrecoverable. Okay, debtors balance. Oh, sorry, I forgot to say sales returns. If you wrote sales and VAT, it would also be okay. But sales returns just makes it clearer as to what this is all about. Okay, so next one that we have there is credit losses. That is actually credit losses and VAT. Okay, and the amount that is for how much? 6492.11. Okay. Okay, right. Awesome stuff. Then we go to the next one. It says cash recovered from a debtor previously written off as credit losses. Now, somebody tell me right quick, should this be going in your debtor's control or your creditor's control? Cash recovered from a debtor previously written off as credit losses. Do we record these? Where do we record these? Maybe that's the question I should ask. Bad debts recovered. Where do we record that? Bad debts recovered. Where do we record? Same thing as credit losses recovered. Where do we record that? Anybody know? Nope, we don't enter it in the creditor's control. We don't enter it in the debtor's control. Thank you for giving it a go, Etienne. I appreciate it. We record this in the income statement or the profit and loss account. So here they were really just trying to test your knowledge, to say, do you know where this is actually supposed to go? This is another one that we ignore. Okay? Remember, when we've written something off, we said we're not getting this money back. If by chance we get the money back, then, oh, yes, of course, we're happy. But we don't now, remember, because we've closed off that individual's account. All right? So therefore, what do? We just record it as money. Under other income, we have bad debts recovered. Okay. So if you think other income, that's where it falls, then you're fine. Okay. All right. Then next one, interest charge on a debtor's account, a debtor's overdue account. Okay, so that's obviously interest income. Just come over here and we write in that was for 350.59. Okay, done. Then there's interest charged by creditors on JPEG Store's overdue account. All right, this time we're being charged interest. So they have just written it out already. So that is for 43.66. Okay. Go to the next one. Transfer of credit account balance in the debtor's ledger to account in creditor's ledger. Okay. So I really don't like these last two transactions because I feel the wording just really confuses people. But here they're saying transfer credit account balance in debtors. Okay, debtors ledger. Okay, so that means if we go up to the debtors, okay, we're saying that there was a transfer of a credit balance in the debtors to the creditor's ledger. Okay, so it's a credit balance in the debtor's ledger. That means to remove it, to transfer it, we need to do a credit entry, sorry, a debit entry. Okay, now this is why I find this also problematic, because I'm like, basically what you're saying is that there's a debtor that owes us. Okay, so here we are. We are then saying, here you just write creditors control. Okay, and that would be recorded in the GJ. Okay, then obviously you need to go and record that in the creditors control as well. So here you're going to write debtors control. Okay, here, same thing, GJ. That was for 5,000 something. 5785.05. Okay. Then last transaction, you have the opposite now. It says credit account balance in the creditor's ledger to account in debtor's ledger. Okay. So to reverse that, you're saying it has a credit balance in the creditor's ledger. To reverse that, okay. All right. We need to then put this here, and we're going to say debtors control, and that is for 440. Okay, yeah, that's it. Just now need to record this in here. So here you're gonna obviously say creditors control 440.62. Okay. Right. And we are done. We are done. Okay. Right. Just want to zoom out a bit. Okay, so the most challenging thing I think about this exercise is one, knowing what your respective journals is all about, and knowing how you post from the journals to the ledger, okay? Knowing whether you're supposed to debit or credit an amount, and knowing the contra account, or knowing what to put in the details in relation to that account. Okay, if you don't know those things, that's where you're going to get caught out. All right, and there's marks, 1 mark, 1 mark, 1 mark for each of these. 1 mark, 1 mark, 1 mark. So, you know, it really is significant that you obviously know the correct accounts to be writing under the details there. But otherwise, it really isn't rocket science. I think the more you practice it, the more it'll, you know, it'll be child's play for you. These are the type of questions that they can ask you. They can't ask you a full-blown question like we had in our last session. They can ask you parts of it, or they'll reduce the volume of things that you need to do in it, okay, if they do ask the whole thing. Please do question 2.3 for homework, okay, and then I'll just ask, yeah, I just ask that you do 2.3 for homework. Let me leave it at that. Are there any questions? Will we reach such a question with bad wording in tests? Ish, guys, you know, unfortunately, sometimes these things happen. I've seen it. Yeah, I've seen that sometimes these things happen in the exam, in the test, and it's so frustrating. So yeah, it does happen. I'm sure they try to avoid that happening, but it does happen. It does happen. Yeah. All right, cool. But anyway, if you have no questions for me, I will not hold you any longer. And I will see you next week, face to face. Yes.